I am very passionate about USA manufacturing. I think it's the key to pulling up people from poverty, to bringing them into the middle class. Having a strong and thriving manufacturing system will really improve the life of so many people. And you're the key, we're the key, and I'm going to talk today about basically two topics. The first one is policy things that are going on in Washington, just to keep you up to date with what's happening. And the second thing is some techniques that we've used at Marlin to improve employee engagement, to improve the ability to be competitive in a very challenging environment where you have Chinese competitors, Mexican competitors, Canadian competitors that are very formidable. We use a number of techniques that I believe you can use. You can cut and paste into your facility. So those will be the two elements that we talk about today. For starters, as we stressed, American manufacturing creates jobs in our country, and they're great jobs. They're amazing jobs. This is Maxie. She's an employee at our factory. She's in charge of making all the fixtures out of wood and materials like aluminum that make the molds that hold our baskets that go down the production line. Why is American manufacturing so critical? Because it's a middle-class job. $82,000 a year, you can see right there, is the average wage of a manufacturing worker, $82,000 a year. If the company is an exporter, on average, they're paying $93,000 a year. This is extraordinarily good money. 97% of American manufacturers pay health insurance. These are good middle-class jobs. They offer health insurance, they offer 401ks. This is the way to pull yourself out of poverty. First, we're going to talk about policies and what's cooking in Washington. Being competitive is critical. We have to have a team, a factory that can thrive and prosper in a very competitive environment against countries where they don't pay their employees well, where they foul the environment. We take great care of our environment, but how do you do that? We have to have a more competitive playing field. I think John F. Kennedy said it great. He said this to the National Association of Manufacturers in 1961. We cannot afford to wait and see what happens while the tide of events sweeps over and beyond us. We must use this time as a tool, not as a catch. I had the privilege of meeting President Trump to talk with him about what small and medium-sized manufacturers need and what's cooking in Washington. This picture happened, that's me right there, handing him his card right before we walked into the Oval Office. I had the privilege of chatting with him and discussing with him initiatives and things that we need as manufacturers to grow our economy and to help manufacturing in our nation. The reason why we were there is because we were sharing with him the results of a survey that the National Association of Manufacturers takes quarterly. And this result asks, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future? And in this quarterly poll, over 93% of American manufacturers were optimistic about the future. That is the highest poll numbers since the inception of manufacturers being polled about what their enthusiasm is about the future. 93.3%. By the way, that poll now been done 3 more times during the Trump administration, and again, it's stayed above 90% on average during those 3 polls. Why is that? Well, by the way, it's not just manufacturers that are enthusiastic, it's small business in general, and it's the consumer. Everybody is getting more and more optimistic about the future. This is actually a tweet from the meeting. You can see me standing right there, and this is actually a positive tweet. A lot of times the president does some tweets that are not so positive. This one happened to be a positive tweet talking about American manufacturers visiting. This was the group of small manufacturers that visited with the president. I've also had the privilege of meeting a well-known Indian Hoosier, Vice President Pence. And we talked right before he was sworn in, and we also talked once he was already president. And each time talk for an hour about small and medium-sized manufacturing and ways that we could grow our nation's manufacturing. President Trump, when we were in the Oval Office, said to us, we're going to bring back manufacturing to the U.S. Vice President Pence told us, it's unbelievable how anemic our economy has been over the last decade or so. It's unacceptable. We have to get to 4 and 5% growth. You guys got to remember, there was a quarter under Reagan's time where it was over 7%. This is doable. We should not be complacent and think a 2% or 1.5% GDP is acceptable. It's unacceptable. Yeah, this is how you pull people out of poverty. I've created this acropolis, what I call the jobs acropolis. These are the things that I think the reason why people are so enthusiastic, so why is small business, why is manufacturing so optimistic about the future? It's built on these columns. These 7 columns are what is driving this excitement of why there's going to be good news in the future. Then go through each one. The first one is, let me step back a second. When I had the privilege of meeting then Governor, but now Vice President-elect, and then ultimately Vice President Pence, he said, the reason why America is going to thrive and prosper, and our manufacturing sector is going to prosper, is because we're going to cut and paste what we did in Indiana for the nation. And he said, you know what the 3 things were that we did so well in our state? The 3 things we did so well was, number 1, we were a right-to-work state, number 2, we were a low-tax state, and number 3, we were a low-regulation state. Because of those 3 things, our manufacturing culture was extraordinary. And because of that, places like Evansville have a 2% unemployment rate. What a tribute to the community. It's fabulous. You guys are doing a lot of things right here. Well, Vice President Pence said to us, we're going to use that playbook for America as a whole. When Vice President Pence was meeting with us, he said to us, he reminded us that both him and Trump's grandfathers were immigrants. He was talking about how humbled he was to be in this position. He was choked up and described how passionate he was about the American dream. And it was a sense of responsibility that we spread the American dream and grow the middle class in our country. The bottom line is, he said to us, we've got to make America more competitive so it's a better place to create jobs. Many people in Washington think, when they use the word manufacturing, they think this picture. There's a picture from the 1950s in Pittsburgh, right? We're all despoiling the environment. We don't treat our employees well. That's what the common sense, conventional picture of manufacturing is to many politicians in Washington. Vice President Pence and President Trump don't think that way. They think we're great job creators, and they think they need more of us to make the economy better. One other thing I wanted to mention, the majority of manufacturers are small. People don't realize this. Many people think most manufacturers are like the size of General Motors or the size of Honeywell or Emerson. They're big, they're huge, they're very valuable to our economy. But more than 50% of factories in America, of employment in America, are with little guys. Matter of fact, there's 227,000 factories in America. 225,000 of us are less than 500 employees. So we contribute a tremendous amount. Now, the big guys are critical because they're our best clients, but it's the little guys. That's where most of the action is. So let's talk about why the economy is going to pick up, and let's talk about why is the optimism justified? Why are jobs going to be created throughout the nation? Number 1, U.S. energy. I had the privilege of speaking with one of your colleagues in the room that works for a coal company. There's been tremendous reduction in regulations for coal. There's been tremendous ability for America to start unleashing our unbelievable, what we have underneath the ground, and we're allowed to exploit that again. That's going to drive down the price of energy, and that's going to make our the value add that we offer easier, because the price of energy is much more expensive in Korea, it's much more expensive in China, it's much more expensive in Europe. This is one of the differences. And if we unleash the American energy system, the unbelievable untapped value, everything from shale to fracking to coal, our costs will be lower, and we'll have a more resilient economy, and we'll have a stronger manufacturing base. This right here is James. If you Google New York Times, James Branch, Marlin Steel from October of last year, they did a full piece on James. He runs our one of our wire forming robots. You can see it right there. He's an interesting person and a great case study for why American manufacturing is great. James used to deal drugs on the corner of Baltimore City streets. And he made good money, fast money. He also got in big trouble. He did time. He spent time in the big house. He did his time. He left. He reformed. He started working at Popeyes, making minimum wage. And then, you know what? He said, I need to make more money. So he started working for a manufacturer. And he made so much money that he put his daughter through college. James is one of our best employees, and he runs a number of $250,000 robots. That's the kind of good thing that manufacturing does for our society, and there's thousands and thousands of stories of James Branches, and that's what it's all about. Bottom line is, domestic energy makes it easier for guys like James Branch to get a job, because if the costs are lower for the American economy, for the American factories, he'll get more at-bats, we'll win more jobs, and he'll get more hours, he'll get more overtime. Number two is infrastructure. Our infrastructure is woeful. We have old ports, our airports. I don't know how many of you have traveled overseas, but if you've been to the Beijing airport, the Shanghai airport, they're gorgeous. If you've been to LaGuardia or JFK in New York, they're a basket case, they're third world. Our infrastructure is crumbling. There's a bridge right near my factory. It was built in 1916, and when you drive over it, you know, if you had dentures, they'd fall out, okay? It's unacceptable how many potholes we have. And I think the thing hasn't been repaired since 1916 when it was built. We need to reinvest in infrastructure. That's roads, that's ports, that's all elements. And we have not been doing proper investment. You can see this chart. In the 1970s, we're spending almost 3.8% of our GDP in reinvesting in our infrastructure. Now, we're down by the under 2% world. The American Society of Civil Engineers is grading our country's infrastructure as a D+. We're America. We should be an A+, right? So this is something that the president is committed to doing, is spending over $1 trillion, with a T, $1 trillion in infrastructure investment, so we have less potholes, so we have the best roads, so we have the best airports. We deserve it, and that's going to help American manufacturing, because there's entities like Caterpillar that's going to make bulldozers for it, and all of us who use trucks to drive down these roads, or trains that go on these, and move in our products, we can get it faster to market. Next is tax reform. This is a big topic. Right now, in Washington, all minds are focused on tax reform. It's critical we get this passed. JFK, John F. Kennedy, said about taxes in 1962 when he was pushing to get the taxes cut. He said, it's a paradoxical truth that taxes are too high today and tax revenues are too low. And the soundest way to raise revenue in the long run is to cut the tax rates now. And if you do it, you'll create a more prosperous and expanding economy. JFK did it, and it caused a wonderful acceleration in the economy. Reagan did it, and pretty soon, I believe Donald Trump is going to be doing it. Mind you, the last time we had tax reform, it was this pitch that explained to the American economy why it was a good idea. 1986. There's probably a number of people in this room that were not born in 1986, okay? That's too long. Our tax code is totally inefficient for being a global player. When Donald Trump went to the National Association of Manufacturers, I had the privilege of introducing him and welcoming him to the NAM before he went on stage to announce it to the manufacturers. This is not last Friday, the Friday before. Here's the crux of Trump's plan. Number one, he's going to simplify it. Right now, we have 7 brackets. He's bringing it down to 3. Who's the losers? It's going to be H&R Block, okay? There's going to be less tax accounting, which is a wasteful activity. He's going to lower the corporate tax rate, specifically from 35%, hopefully down to 15%. There's going to be a lot of tax loopholes that will go away. He's going to eliminate the death tax. He's going to also take the ability to repatriate cash. We'll talk about that more in a couple minutes. A couple other things it's going to do. Well, by the way, when we're talking about simplification, we're talking about 90% of American filers will use a postcard. It's that simple. And small businesses, again, that's 90-something percent, 97% of American manufacturers who are LLCs, who are pass-throughs, who are S-corps, their rate's going to go from the current personal rate, which is 39+%, down to 25%. That means we're going to be more competitive with Canada, where they're at 15%. And we have instant expensing. Instant expensing means when you go buy a robot or some automation or a tool, so your employees can be more competitive against Mexicans or more competitive against Chinese, you can write it off that year rather than spreading it over 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, right? You can write it off that year. It's going to give a lot of testosterone to a lot of business owners to go out there, belly up to the bar, and make it happen. And buy that tool, buy that technology, so your employees can be more effective and more efficient. Bottom line is, some economists are saying it's going to add $12 trillion to our GDP. We're going to invest $3.3 trillion into the economy. And most importantly, 6.5 million jobs will be created. Bottom line is, tax reform is critical to manufacturing jobs. There's a little chart, and I'm going to provide this PowerPoint slideshow to Shannon and the team, and she'll share it with you. But you can watch tax reform going through. And if it's tracking on these dates, ballpark, it's going to work out. So green is what's behind us, and you can see every single week or every single milestone where we are. So you can see whether or not this is going to play out. Bottom line is, right now, we're the red number. Okay, that's our marginal top tax rate for our companies, 39%. The average is down here. It's hard. If you're GE, how do you compete with Siemens, right? You can't because their rates are so much lower than us. So that means our employees are going to win less jobs and they have less opportunities. We have to make this right so our employees can have a level playing field. Bottom line is, forward-looking tax policy is an economic imperative. This is Kenny, he's our fixture maker, he makes the samples. This is a basket we're making for Volvo. I can't stress enough to you how important this tax reform is. Your politicians have to get in line so that it can protect our interests, so that we can grow our jobs and grow our economy. Rarely do you hear of somebody who's speaking to you say to you, please get out your cell phones right now, please, I implore you, and go to that number and text Act on Tax. They will support, they will give you updates, and they'll help you get your politician to make a change and hopefully vote the right way, so that we don't have a situation where we have an antiquated tax system. I encourage you to text to 52886 and give this to your employees and have them do it. Text Act on Tax, no spaces, Act on Tax. Please do that, because that way we can get the message out so manufacturers have a better shot at being more competitive and we can grow our economy. So again, 52886, Act on Tax, no spaces. Next is repatriation. So part of this tax reform is that we have 3 to 5 trillion, it's unclear, $3 to $5 trillion of cash parked overseas. What does that mean? So if you make cash profits, let's say in Switzerland or in France, overseas, and you're a company, if you bring it back, not only do you get taxed at the French rate, but you also get taxed when you bring it home. We're the only country that does this. Everybody else has what's called a global tax system. We actually tax a second pass. So you know what happens with our companies? They don't bring it back. It sits overseas. They're waiting for that cash to be taxed in a rational way. This new tax plan allows them to bring home that money, what's called repatriate that money, back into our system. This is part of the reason why I believe the American economy is so optimistic about the future. Because soon, 3 to 5 trillion, nobody knows exactly, 3 to 5 trillion is going to come home. And when that comes home, you know what they're going to do with it? They're going to buy new factories, build new factories, buy new equipment, hire more people, hire more PhDs, hire more engineers, do a new marketing campaign. They're going to do something with the money. Now, some of it will be used for dividends, some of it will be used for cash buybacks, but that's good for your 401k, right? That's good for the pensioners, right? So what's going to happen is this is going to be another element for why there's optimism and what justifies 93.3% of small manufacturers and manufacturers in general being enthusiastic about the future. This is going to be a sugar rush for the economy when this happens. Next is trade. So bottom line, trade is very good for America. And a lot of times you'll hear people badmouth trade. So you can see the blue line is manufacturing output, and the red line is how much our manufacturers are exporting. So you can see, despite the bad-mouthing of NAFTA, despite the bad-mouthing of WTO, Korean Free Trade Agreement, all those things, what goes up pretty consistently, except for the bad recession of 2008, pretty consistently, we're shipping more. And factories really count on exports. We need a thriving trade. We need thriving exports. And you can see how important it is to all of us that own factories and run factories. It's almost 50% of American factories' output is actually exported. So the blue line is total output of all factories. The orange line is what we export. It's a huge contributor to our well-being. So for example, we make baskets for Caterpillar. We ship it to Peoria. We ship thousands and thousands of baskets to this Caterpillar plant. But it's a little misleading. Why? Well, because more than half of the tractors, the bulldozers that Caterpillar makes, they export. So really, those baskets are used for exports. One thing we talked about with Vice President Pence was, tell us about this trade topic. Because for years I was a big proponent of NAFTA. For years I was a big proponent of TPP, the 14 countries that are on the Pacific Rim coming together to make a huge multilateral deal. I thought this was going to be great for our factories. I thought this was going to be great for America. And we asked Vice President Pence, why is President Trump so much against the TPP? It was one of the first things he did, was get rid of it. What's the reason? And he said, it's real simple. When you get into a deal with 14 people, Peru, Vietnam, Japan, America, Canada, etc., you water down the impact of America. We're a huge country, but if we're at the table with 13 other entities, we're watering ourselves down. We're an 800-pound gorilla if it's us versus Peru, bilateral, or us versus Vietnam, bilateral. So Vice President Pence explained to us the benefit of doing a series of bilateral deals is going to be much better for the American factory worker. It's going to be much better for the American factory because a series of bilateral deals where we are the 800-pound gorilla is much better than being watered down on a multilateral deal like TPP or Trans-Pacific Partnership. So that was the justification. It sounded interesting. It sounded good to me. He changed my mind. But that's his push, and that's the reason why they think trade will be better for America because we'll have our interests protected better by a series of many bilateral deals as opposed to a few very large multilateral deals where our heft is watered down. But again, I gotta stress, trade is critical. We gotta make sure we keep it going. 1 in 3 acres in America is exported, and more than 15% of American factory goods are exported. Next is regulations. One of the things we talked about Vice President Pence with is whatever happened with Carrier. And he said, you know, why did Carrier leave? Carrier was actually the last company in their industry that was still in America. All the other companies have already fled. They already left to Mexico. They're the last survivor in India, and they were in India, as you know. And why did they decide to close down? Because there was 50 new regulations in the final 2 years of the Obama administration. It was the straw that broke the camel's back. According to Vice President Pence, Trump picked up the phone and said to them, I'll roll them back. Let me know what they are, and I'll get rid of them. And I want you to stay here in America. That apparently, according to Vice President Pence, is the backstory of why Carrier stayed. Winston Churchill has my favorite line in regulations. If you have 10,000 regulations, you destroy all respect for the law. Here's the problem. American manufacturers have 297,000 literally 297,000 regulations on them. It's a lot more than 10,000. Now, I want regulations because I want clean water. I want regulations because I want clean air. I've been to China. It's foul. China is, it's scary to breathe in China. Okay? And I'm from Maryland, and I'm a crab bigot, okay? I can't eat crab cakes anywhere else in the world, all right? So we want clean water because we have the Chesapeake Bay, and that's where our crabs come from, right? So we have to have pristine water. So these are givens. You have to have clean water. You have to have clean air. You have to have clean soil. You have to protect your employees, right? That being said, you still don't need 297,000 regulations. That's over the top. That's tying up our factories, and that's the reason why great companies like Train leave America, right? Because they're escaping our overregulation. We need rational regulations. This is Chris Elwood, he's one of our mechanical engineers. Bottom line is, if we have rational regulations, not over the top, not burdensome, keep the air clean, keep the water clean, our companies can be competitive. 87% of manufacturers say if we could have rational regulations, they'll invest more into their factories, they'll do more R&D, more wages, more capital into their factories. This is a big dollar amount. So if you look at the orange bucket right here, the average small manufacturer, less than 50 employees, is spending on average 34 grand a year per employee. So think about your employee who's working. He or she has 34 grand of burden that he's carrying or she's carrying when they're working. If we can get that down to $17,000, what a win for the American economy, and keep the air clean and keep the water clean. This is what we need so that we can have a more viable economy. President Trump has vowed to have a 2-for-1 ratio. Every new regulation, he's going to take away 2 that don't make any sense. And if we could repeal it at that rate, I think this is justification for why we're going to have an expanding economy. By the way, the reality, so far to date, he's actually been cutting 16, not a 2-to-1 ratio. He's beating his record. He's cutting back 16 to 1. There's already been some wins. Keystone Pipeline, Dakota Pipeline. These are $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year welding jobs that are being created that would never have happened because they would have been scuttled because of regulations. He's also ended the war on coal. This is good for our country because it makes our feedstock, the energy that we need to power our economy. There's another thing that people haven't talked about when we talk about regulations. It's the judges. He promised he would have a Scalia-like pick for his judges. Well, already there's a Supreme Court Justice, Gorsuch, that was picked, who's in the mold of Scalia, which is a good thing. And he's already nominated 60 people. And there's 160 that are going to be filled real soon. And the regulations, how they're interpreted, how the judges are interpreting the rules, that's going to have a big impact. And it's not just for a year or 2. These judges sit on these benches for 15, 20, 30 years in some cases. This is going to have in 2040, 2030, we're going to have people still interpreting rules because of his picks that he's making now. Lastly is healthcare reform. This is Nathan. He runs one our wire forming companies, and he was actually not last Friday, the Friday before. He actually was in the Oval Office, and President Trump signed the proclamation for Manufacturing Day on October 6th and gave the pen to Nathan, who was standing behind him. So Nathan runs our wire forming machinery. Right now, there's taxes on health insurance companies. There's taxes on our medical device companies. There's taxes for the companies so that they have to raise their rates to us. For example, in Arizona, their premiums have gone up over 116%. I know our premiums have gone up over 100% over the last 8 years, and I know that we've lost our health plan 4 different times in the last 8 years. So where are we with healthcare? Well, it's not as rosy as we would hope at this point. The House succeeded in putting across the line a bill. The Senate failed. We had the privilege of meeting Senator McConnell from Kentucky, Leader McConnell from Kentucky, and the way he put it is, are you guys familiar with the 80-20 rule? He said to us, and all manufacturers generally are familiar with the 80-20 rule. He said, 80% of my time is spent with 4 senators, okay? He is constantly negotiating, kissing up to these 4 senators, trying to get them to behave. And bottom line is 3 are showboating, and that's what scuttled it in the Senate. Recently, the other day, President Trump just used his pen and is now allowing us, soon, to buy health insurance from other states. That should be a very good thing because competition is a good thing. I know in Maryland, we're down to like 4 companies that we can buy health insurance from. If I could buy from Kentucky or if I could buy from Indiana, you guys might have a better plan than what I'm getting. So it's going to open up the game, and I won't have a cartel that I'm dealing with. It's got to be good for me, and hopefully in reciprocal, Indiana and Kentucky will have a better deal. So again, if these policies are important to you, and I hope they are, there's an organization called Friends of Manufacturing, and you can text friends to 52886, and you can get on their list so you can be advised of updates of new policies and things that are happening in Washington so that you can hit the senator or the congressman at the right time. Hey, text now about this matter, and you'll be on the list, and you'll be engaged. And I implore you to text 52886, the word friends, and you'll be enlisted into this army. We need an army of people alerting the congressmen, alerting the senators about sensible policies to protect manufacturers. So that's basically a policy update, policy briefing on what's cooking in Washington. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that afterwards, but first I was going to talk about employee engagement. I understand Evansville is dealing with 2% unemployment. What a wonderful problem to have, but it is a problem. But it's a testament to a wonderful economic system you got going on here. How do you attract talent? How do you retain talent? How do you engage talent when you have a 2% unemployment? That's really tough. Oh, I'm sure if they're skilled, it's probably a 0.5%. If they're a skilled employee, it's probably even worse. So that I'm going to share with you some techniques that we find useful. But the bottom line is, the way to keep manufacturers healthy, it's all in the people. It's all about people. One of the most important elements that makes American manufacturing unique and different is how productive our employees are. They're extraordinarily productive. This is a chart of some of the biggest countries in the world and how productive their employees are. And you can see here, for example, India, they're less than 20 grand a year revenue per employee. This is value added. And you can see up here, Holland is close, but number 1 by far is the USA. This is an incredible document because it shows how unbelievably productive the American employee is and the American worker is. I'm going to share with you some techniques that Marlon uses to get them even more productive, to get them even more engaged, to get them even more dedicated, to get them to have less turnover, to have less churn. Just to scroll back a second, this is what my factory looked like the day I bought the company, just so you guys know a little context. The company was established in 1968, Marlin, and I bought it in 1998 when it was a 30-year-old company. It was at 5,000 square feet. We had 3 people without fingers. We had 2 people without eyes. It was a Charles Dickens novel. Okay. There was a little sign, you can see it right here. It says, "Be careful, watch your step." This is a picture I took on the very first day. What an omen. Okay, I should have really looked at that sign a little more carefully. There was no rules about safety glasses. You can see this right here. That was a hand bending machine. So we had 8 guys that take wire. They put the wire down, and they would hand bend. Every bend. We made bagel baskets. So when you go to like a bagel shop and you order a bagel, the little wire baskets that hold the bagels, we were the biggest bagel basket manufacturer in the world. And we made these bagel baskets all day long. And we had 8 guys with enormous arms, like Popeye size. Their right arm was the size of Popeye. And they would bend 300 bends an hour. And then you know what they would do the rest of the other 7 hours? 300 more bends an hour. And you know what to do the next day? 300 bends an hour. They would do that the next week, and that was their livelihood. We had 8 guys with enormous arms. They also occasionally would miss, and they would hurt their fingers, and it was plus or minus a quarter of an inch. But it worked. Do you know why? Because when you're in the bagel basket business, your client, the bagel shop, they don't even own a tape measure. So their tolerance is plus or minus a bagel. Okay? If the bagel doesn't fall out of the basket, success, good quality. Okay? That was the world that I bought. Okay? And it was a fine world because I don't know if you guys recall, but in the 90s, the bagel basket business was doing very well. It was exploding because all of a sudden everybody was starting to eat bagels. It became kind of common. And they started, it wasn't just a New York City thing, it was just expanding across the nation. So we were shipping bagel baskets all over the place. And it was working out really well for us. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what the bagel baskets look like. That's what it looks like. So we were making thousands of these bagel baskets, and everything was perfect. And then 2 terrible things occurred. This happened right after I bought the company. I had no idea this was going to happen. The first thing was the Atkins diet. I don't know if you guys recall the Atkins diet. This is a diet where you're not allowed to eat carbohydrates. What's the world's biggest carbohydrate? A bagel. Okay. So what's the first thing you do? You stop going to the bagel shops, which means that all my clients started going bankrupt. It was terrible. Who would have known this? Okay, because we just came out of this bagel fad where everybody's eating bagels like crazy. People that never ate bagels before all of a sudden are eating bagels. All of a sudden nobody's eating bagels. Second terrible thing occurred. China. They figured out, hey, we can go after this commodity market. We can sell these baskets into America because the quality doesn't matter. It's just got to be plus or minus a bagel. That's the kind of world China likes to be in, right? That was the world we were in, but they didn't even notice us until they noticed us. And unfortunately, that's right after I bought the company. That is a bad place to be, okay? So we had 2 horrible things occur soon after I bought the company. All of a sudden, sales started plummeting. All of a sudden, we were hemorrhaging cash. And just to show you how bad it was when I talk about the Chinese impact on us, so we were selling bagel baskets for like 12 bucks a throw, $7 in steel, and I made, the variable was basically $5. That's for the rent, that's for the Christmas party, that's for the 401k, that's paid for the fax machine, right? We lived on the $5, right? China started delivering bagel baskets into Manhattan for $6. That's no business, right? Because if your competition's coming in at $6 and your material cost is $7, you know what that's called? Death. We were dying. We were just plunging down, hemorrhaging cash. And it was a very bad situation. I didn't have any ideas, and I was in a bad way because I had all these employees and I had no business model. And we were floundering around trying to figure out what the heck we were going to do next. Right around this time, we got a phone call, a very fortuitous phone call from an engineer at Boeing. And he said he needed a basket about this big, about that wide, just needed a handful of them. I said, oh, this is going to be a pain, because normally I sell the Einstein bagels or Bruegger's or Manhattan bagels, I sell them in a lot for 1,000. This guy just wants a handful of them. I'm going to have to charge you 24 bucks. You know what the mechanical engineer said? Yeah, whatever. Big light bulb went off over my head. That was my epiphany. Quality, engineered quick. If I could have a market where you have an engineer that appreciates quality, appreciates engineering, appreciates customization, and you can ship quick, right? Faster than China will deliver, you can have a viable market. So we morphed the entire company from the bagel world, where we were dying, to mechanical engineers, process engineers, manufacturing engineers, and that's our world. Problem is 99.99% of my employees and clients were totally geared towards the bagel world. But we had to make the pivot, and if we didn't, we were going to die. So we did it, and that's what saved the company. So now we do things like expanded metal baskets. This is for Ford 150s, the steering columns. We make the baskets that hold the Ford F-150s when they go down, the steering columns when they go down the production line. We make big baskets for dipping, but it's all engineered, it's all for process. Baskets to hold the parts and the compartments. And we have things like laser, we have, this is a medium frequency welder. We've made a tremendous investment back into the factory, and we're right now in the process of investing another $1.2 million. This is the president of Siemens coming to look at our, we make racks and baskets for Siemens. That's the president of Siemens checking out our medium frequency welder. We have press brakes and punches. So I'm just trying to show you that we have credibility when we talk about manufacturing. And these are so we have a real factory in Baltimore where we import nothing. We only use sheet metal from Nucor in Crawfordsville, Indiana. We only use wire from Chicago, stainless steel wire from Chicago. We only use an American, and we export to 39 countries. So our niche is quality engineered quick, and it's all about workforce. My contention is the way you're going to thrive and prosper in the future is by using some of these tools and techniques, and this will help you despite having a 2% economy, a 2% unemployment rate, how to keep your employees motivated, how to keep them engaged, how to keep them dedicated. Let me start first with the critical foundational element. And a lot of companies don't understand this, and I think this is intrinsic to any dialogue when you talk about employees. You have to look at your direct labor as a fixed cost. They're not variable. That's rule number one. If you think of your direct labor as like a rent payment or mortgage payment, right? No matter what, you're paying the direct labor bill. You're going to have a more engaged workforce. You're going to have a more dedicated team. If you look at these people like they're forever with you, then you're more inclined to train them. You're more inclined because you know that you want them to be so well trained because they're going to retire with you. If you have that mindset, and they know you have that mindset, they're going to give it all for you. Another thing you should do is pursue a vigorous campaign on safety. You want to be the safest company in your industry. You want to do great things for your employees, for their well-being. So this is in contrast to the company I bought with 3 guys without fingers and 2 guys without eyes, okay? Now, fast forward, we're Sharp. I don't know if you're familiar with Sharp. It's a wonderful program OSHA has where rather than them being an adversary with you, they're a consultant for you. They're a mentor to you. They're a partner with you, okay? Most people, when they hear the word OSHA's in your foyer, right, the first thing you do is you grab garlic and a cross, right? That's how most companies act, right? Another approach with OSHA, and this is the one I recommend, is to use them as a consultant because they know about safety topics. And they'll give you a checklist to how you can up your game. And then follow that checklist, and you will have a safer facility, and you'll have less people get hurt. Your employees will see that you're doing something unique. You're inviting OSHA in and asking them for input, asking them how to up your game. That's rare. Nobody does that. Well, rather, few people do that. I encourage you to be one of those people. Your employees will think of you differently because you're looking at a way to help them come home with all their fingers and come home with their hands. Just so you guys know, this entity is called Sharp. And we're one of 5 companies in our state that is Sharp. So what that means is that OSHA cannot do a surprise inspection at Marlin. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every other company in Maryland, except for us 5, they can come in to check on the well-being of that company's employees. There's 5 companies that are exempt. Marlin's one of them. Why? Because they have so much comfort in our rigor, in our procedures, in our approach to safety that we're exempt. They cannot come in as a surprise inspection. I recommend that you pursue Sharp because your employees will be impressed that you care so much about them. It takes time, it takes effort, but it's the right thing to do. And the results show we've gone over 3,200 days with only 1 LTA, 1 lost time accident. We're going 525 days without any lost time accidents. We have a very strong safety committee. They meet once a month. They come to us with ideas. 100% of the time they ask for something, we say yes. Here's the most important thing. You have to hunt down near misses. Near misses are the #1 predictor of a problem you're going to have. Focus like a laser beam on near misses. You want to know about every single near miss. And you want to make sure that never again can that near miss happen. Because that near miss is the ultimate probable thing that's going to happen to your team in the future. This is a picture of, this picture right here is with Secretary Acosta right there. 2 weeks ago he came to our factory. He's the Secretary of Labor. He's in Trump's cabinet. And he came out for Manufacturing Day on October 6th to visit with us. And this right here is a picture of this picture is right here is with the governor. There's another nice thing about this is that politicians will come to your factory and extol your virtues in front of your employees if you are Sharp, because they know that you take good care of their employees. It's like a good housekeeping seal of approval, right? The politicians know you're legit and they'll talk favorably about you in front of your employees. That's another nice thing, and that makes the employees have more pride and be more proud of the company that they have. Next, skills matrix. This is another technique to improve engagement, to improve dedication amongst your workers. In our factory, we have what's called the skills matrix. We are very transparent about the skills that we care about for you to advance, for you to progress in your factory. In most places, the way to get ahead is to go out for beers with your boss. That's the most. Some of them, it's you play golf with your boss, right? I call it golfocracy, right? That's how you get ahead, right? I reject that. I think the way to do it is to be very transparent with people, and in our lunchroom, we have a very, very large Excel spreadsheet, and on the Excel spreadsheet, we have a series of columns. Each column is an employee name, every employee in our factory. And each row is a skill at our factory to get ahead. If you learn that skill, you make more money. That's simple. If you lose that skill, you lose that money. The beauty of this is that this shows people if you're learning more and more things, more and more of these rows, you're going to get paid more. And this is how you get more money. This is how you become more indispensable. This is how you add value at our company. We're being transparent with you. There's no mystery. It's not by getting beers with the boss. It's not by playing golf with the owner. It's by learning more of these skills. That's what's critical to us. Now, some skills are simple. We give them 1 point, okay? Some skills are harder, 2 points. Some skills are very hard, 3 points. And some skills are extraordinarily hard, 4 points. Like learning the laser, we have a laser. Learning how to set up a laser, that's really hard. You have to go to Connecticut for a week, that's 4 points. You get more money for that. Some skills are simple, like setting up a bandsaw. Okay, that's 1 point. So what we do is we're very transparent, learn these skills, you get more money, and at the very bottom we tabulate how many points you have. So we're straight up with people. Everybody knows who makes more money. There's no confusion. And if you're killing it and you're always wanting to learn more things and learning more and more, you're more and more valuable to us, you're more and more indispensable to us, and you get paid more. Oh, by the way, if you're complacent, you're lethargic, you're not into it, you get paid less, you have lower points. Everybody knows who has the most points, it's on the lunchroom. So this is, I find, a very good way to get people more dedicated, more engaged, more motivated. We pay them for training, we pay the trainers for training. We have very straightforward tests, very black and white tests on whether or not you've learned a skill. If we come back to you later and you haven't, and you don't know how to do it, you literally lose the points. Yellow are people that have learned something new since the last 90-day period. We freshen this up every 90 days. Next, another way to improve the engagement, improve the dedication of your employees, is we have what's called a production bonus system. This is to give skin in the game to your teammates. So you don't have just one entrepreneur that's running the joint that makes money. Everybody has a piece of the action. We want everybody to be basically a shopkeeper, a little mini entrepreneur making money for themselves. That way, if everybody does really well on a micro level, then on a macro level, the whole company will do better. Your employees are different than you. You think in 1 year periods of time, how much you will make this year, right? Or how much you will make over a decade, right? You think in long periods of time. Your employees do not think that way. Your employees think in 2-week increments of time, right? Because Jimmy needs braces, because Bobby needs to get new shoes for soccer, right? They're thinking in 2-week increments. They need an oil change. They need to get new tires. These are big, big expenses for them. They're thinking in 2-week increments. So you need to have a bonus program that pays out every 2 weeks, right? If it's once a year, it's 1 billion years away. It's inconceivable they can think that far away, right? They think in 2-week increments. You have to give bonuses in 2-week increments. You have to give serious money. You can't give little money. You know, one time I gave a speech at a pharmaceutical company, and they gave a $25 check if you got a patent to the PhD. That's insulting. It's insulting, right? Hector, the oldest numbered employee in our factory, he came with us from Brooklyn. He worked at Brooklyn for 7 years before I met him, with a company used to be in Brooklyn, New York. He came down with us. He can make $1,000 in 2 weeks if he makes $25,000 worth of baskets. $1,000. Do I have his attention? Oh, yeah. Absolutely. He's fired up. He's motivated. Do I have to watch how many times he goes to the bathroom every day? Do I have to say to him, listen, you got to stop talking about the Orioles. You got to stop talking about the Ravens. No way. He's killing it because he wants to get his grand for 2 weeks worth of work, right? And if somebody downstream from him gives him lousy parts, so it slows him down, he's going to have a conniption, right? Don't wait, Jose, you're not giving me bad parts. You take them back. Give me good parts, because if you give me bad parts, that slows me down. I can't make my job. I can't make my numbers. Here's the best part of paying really big money. You find out who the real boss is, and we have a couple Spanish employees. Jefe is the Spanish word for boss. Who's the real jefe in their life? It ain't you. You know who the real jefe is? It's the spouse. Because when that spouse sees a $1,000 bonus check for 2 weeks worth of work, they're engaged. You got the spouse engaged, okay? And all of a sudden, the family's budget rises. Why? Because he just made $1,000. They're going to get really used to that. So the spouse is going to say, why don't you get $1,000 this 2 weeks? What's going on? They get really accustomed to that, right? So all of a sudden, it's not me asking them to work hard, right? It's the spouse who's kicking them. They're the real boss. There's another benefit of this. We eliminate that little level of people that carry clipboards, that pester people, that patronize people, right? These are the people that make you feel that you're not professional, that you're not an adult. Questioning how often you go to the bathroom, questioning whether or not you're chewing the fat with your friends too long, right? By getting rid of that whole level of people, you treat your teammates like adults. And they like it. They like to come to work more. They're getting paid better. They're not getting pestered by this person. They're working in their cell trying to kill it. You got to keep the groups really small, by the way, very micro. It cannot be huge teams. It's got to be very, very, as small a team as you can make it. Because that way they can have a real impact, right? They're not counting on, globally did everybody do well. It's out of their control. They can only control a small little sliver of the world. Give them complete control of that part of the world, and they'll do amazing things. And again, if every one of these little microcells does well, the whole company does well. And that's how you get amazing productivity, that's how you get real engagement, and that's how you get less churn, that's how you get more dedicated employees. That's how they're going to come up with really slick, innovative ways to get more widgets out per hour. Why? Well, because it's easier for them to get their grand every 2 weeks, or $500 every 2 weeks. Because if they can manipulate the workspace a little bit, they'll shoot more stuff. Well, they'll come up with ideas. Well, here, I'm going to make this widget, or hey, can you give me this or that tool? Another benefit is they'll purge employees that are sloths. How often do you have blue-collar workers walk into your office and say, this guy's in my team, and he ain't carrying his weight? You don't have that. Blue-collar workers don't say that, right? In my company, they do. Because the denominator is how many people are in the cell. Okay? So what will happen is they will march into your office and say, get rid of them. That person. He doesn't work hard. Or she doesn't give it their all. Or she's not doing good quality. Or he's not doing good quality. Right? That's not a typical blue-collar way of thinking. Right? But if you're reducing your chances of getting your bonus, the hell with that guy. Right? I want him out. So they self-purge. They tell you, again, you don't need the paper clipboard person anymore, and they're telling you which employees stink. And they're imploring you to get rid of them because they're holding you back. Next is training. I think this is a critical way to build engagement. People are more focused, they like their job more, they're learning more things, keeping it fresh, keeping it new. We spend 5% of our direct labor budget on training. Like, for example, back to the laser school. So we send people to laser school for a full week in Connecticut. Then we send them for another week for advanced laser school. So that our guys and gals have extraordinary ability to run that machine like nobody else. They'll have less scrap, they'll have more uptime, there's less crashes. They just squeeze more out of it. Remember, they're getting that production bonus too. So they're really into it. They're really focused on really trying to how to optimize that machine. Again, it's not typical blue-collar thinking. Blue-collar thinking is, whatever the machine makes, it makes. I don't care. I'm still getting my check. But when they have an opportunity to learn how to push more out of these machines, they're more engaged, they're more into it. Another critical element is infusing quality throughout your factory. That's how you get reorders. We're very process driven. We use ISOs, a lot of standard operating procedures, a lot of in-process inspections, a lot of check fixtures so that we can have consistent good quality. Another thing we do is if you ship junk, you don't get your production management bonus. Okay? So that keeps them really fired up about not only making a lot of stuff, but making a lot of good stuff, which is different. And initially we didn't have that as part of our program. Huge element for American manufacturing is engineering or innovations. I believe that's our secret sauce. Just so you know, 20% of our employees are degreed mechanical engineers. I think engineers are fabulous, and I recommend you hire more because I think that really differentiates you from your competition. A lot of companies don't invest in engineering, and I think it hurts them. I think they offer extraordinary value. For example, the job on the left there is for an aerospace company in Wichita. They need to know exactly how much weight a basket can hold. That's the kind of value we can offer. My competition doesn't offer that service. We paid 60 grand for the software. That differentiates us. There's no way that aerospace companies are going to go somewhere else because nobody else can offer or I don't know, I'm not familiar with any other companies that can offer this service. So for that reason, we're differentiating ourselves. So offering the engineering creates a moat around you. It separates you from just being a commodity player, just offering the lowest price. I think quick is another critical element, so that they can't go buy from China, they can't buy from Mexico, you ship really quick. We use a lot of automation, a lot of robots, focusing on quick changeovers, timing, how long it takes. It's the concept of measure twice, cut once. There's a lot of exciting things coming up in robotics in the future, and some of it's happening right now. Everything from vision systems, different robots connecting with each other, and all kinds of artificial intelligence. A lot of people talk about how robots are going to kill American manufacturing employees. I reject that. That's a conventional wisdom. It's wrong. However, the countries in the dark blue, they're going to be more impacted by robots. We're going to eat their lunch. Right now, our #1 client is talking about doubling their sales with us when they make telecommunications equipment, when we make telecommunication components for them. And right now, we're poised to win our biggest order, and it's because we're going to take away a job from India. We're going to have a lot of robots, but we're going to add 3 $80,000 a year people to run that robot. But so the robots will be bought by Americans, by Marlin, and it will create 3 jobs. Now the losers could probably be in Indian workers, but that's not my problem. My problem is getting our country to be more strong and more prosperous. So I think robots are going to grow jobs in America because we're going to eat their lunch, because our employees are going to have the best tools and the best technology to leapfrog the competition. I think the best way to use robots is to get rid of the repetitive duties, the carpal tunnel syndrome kind of work, anything that's boring, anything that's dirty, anything that creates a lot of scrap. That's where you should focus on putting your robots first. Bottom line is, thank you so much for letting me spend some time with you today. Manufacturing is critical. Please stand with us with those text numbers I gave you. Please, before you close out the night, text, and so we can have our policy leaders following our lead and making sure we're doing the right thing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate this opportunity.